about you. All right, let's go to the second part of the sting. That's a hook. That was our setup. That was what we, this is the philosophy that I want you to take into this presentation about understanding that your website can have a direct parallel to that 30-second speech. Now, your visitors have to get your site. Let's go back again. Hi, what do you do? Really applies to web media strategy and design. People are today so overwhelmed and overtaken and overinterested in the latest gizmo, gadget, wiki, widget, social media, what's next, super cool, the next big thing, that they take their eyes off the target and they really aren't focused on what they need to focus on, and those are these basic questions that I'm talking about. So your 30-second speech or elevator pitch applies to your website. You don't want to come across with, hey, I'm a generally unimportant person. You really don't want to know me. You really want to obviously do the opposite, but you want to step back and think about what strategy achieves that goal. So if I were to grade that answer, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a consultant, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd give it a 1. And it answers, in truth, who am I and what do I do and how do I do it frequently. But is that what the reader really wanted to hear? They want to know, who are you, how can I help you, and how can you help me? So that's what a website wants to know as well. Change your focus. You've got to ask these questions before you design a website. It's not about graphic design. It's not about what the managing partner or the executive director wants on the home page. It's, who are you, how can I help you, and how can you help me? So how can we improve our score? Well, who are the most engaging, who are the people that you remember when you go to a cocktail party? The people that you remember are those that ask questions about you, not those who endlessly talk about themselves. So if I'm going to a party and someone drones on and on about themselves, that's another individual that you want to walk away from. Well, what do most websites do? Exactly that. They don't talk about their clients. They don't talk about their client problems, client needs, client opportunities. They're talking about themselves. So that has to shift. Not interested in me. I'm not interested in you either. So let's improve our grade. Go back to these points. Have a purpose. What do you want the listener to do? Create a dialogue. Position yourself as important, confident, and a leader. Okay. Now let's get into the thick of this. So have a purpose. What do you want the listener to do? Well, I'm going to segue just slightly into a bit of a philosophical point, but it's one that I think is important in our experience when we see, as we see so many people developing websites. We launch websites for a purpose, and I got a question recently from one of our prospective clients that said, well, by the way, do we really need a website? And my response to that was, oh my God, you're kidding me. Is that even possible that I get this question in this day and time? But for that individual, they were just launching their website for a purpose, that is to say, to have a website. So a baby that suckles at its mother's breast, for example, is doing this for a purpose, to survive, to live another day, to grow up, but that's for a purpose. And here's the distinction. A website that is launched, by the way, that is a life or death matter, but a website that's launched with a purpose is the same as a baby having that purpose, saying, I'm going to grow up to be the shortstop of the New York Yankees. That's a very different approach to your website. So you can launch a site for a purpose, check off the website box, or launch a site with a purpose. I'm going to drive people to my site. People are going to learn about us. They're going to learn about our expertise. They're going to learn about our specialties in these areas. They're going to create a relationship with us. I need to do that kind of thinking, or all site design and websites becomes just an exercise in technology on the one hand and graphic design on the other. And that is not what websites are all about. So we're going to try to talk about websites with a purpose. Websites launched for a purpose do survive, but that's all they do. Here's one that was a good example of this, Bound. One of the largest, it's a billion-dollar printing firm, one of the big three financial printing firm. And you could look at this site forever, and that's a site that's launched for a purpose. In other words, to have a website. And that's very different. If you took 3 seconds at this site, you'd discover nothing at all. Well, I've launched a very different site with a purpose. The purpose is, okay, I want you to know that we're a billion-dollar financial printer. These interesting facts, first company listed on the stock exchange, 210-year-old company. But most importantly, I want to create a dialogue. I want you to understand who we are. And I want you to get us, and I want to create a relationship immediately. So I turn this into into a completely different site that allows people to know that with a properly directed site and design site, I can convince people to buy your products, persuade them to use services, inspire them to raise your flag, contribute to your causes, or join your mission. How? Have a goal. Control the real estate on each page, and we'll come back to this balance site. The very first thing to do is to articulate the brand position. So, interestingly, a website is, as we had talked about last week, maybe the first really tangible impression that someone has of your organization, and that impression occurs as quickly as in 1/20th of a second in 2 studies done recently, or maybe a year ago, in Ottawa and London, where they flashed a website on the page in 1/20th of a second and got impressions from people. So, okay, here you go. Take a close look at your screen. A little bit more than 1/20th of a second with this. This is what WebEx does to your 1/20th of a second. It expands it dramatically. But